Hi. Welcome back to Halloween week, aka Haunted Mansion week with Theme Park Author. Yesterday we spoke on some theories and explained some of the stories of the most famous Haunted Mansion characters, but we saved the best and most confusing and most elaborate, most deep for last. That's right, the bride. Every Haunted Mansion version around the world has a bride, except for, I think, Mystic Manor doesn't, unless she is just kind of like hidden and just way less obvious. And I'll explain that in a second. In Tokyo Disneyland, the bride is kind of just there. She doesn't really talk. She is very similar to what they originally had in the Disneyland attraction. It didn't do anything really, it just kind of hung out there with a beating heart and a candle. And that's kind of what the Tokyo Disney bride is. In Magic Kingdom and Disneyland, we have who has come to be known as Constance Hatchaway, which we will explain her in a minute. In Phantom Manor, we have Melanie Ravenswood. Phantom Manor really revolves around her, and she's a bride. In the Haunted Mansion movie, we have Elizabeth, the bride, who was killed on her wedding day. In the first Haunted Mansion attraction at Disneyland Park in California, there was always a bride. Really, her story is really evolved. She was very similar to, like I said, the Tokyo Disneyland version now, where she wasn't even called the bride back then. The animatronic was named Beating Heart. Because she didn't say anything, she just kind of hung out there with just a beating heart. And then the story evolved and she was kind of a victim, like how we talked about with Captain Gore, throwing his bride out the window, like similar stories to that, or little nods to it. And now, at least in the Magic Kingdom and Disneyland versions, we have a Black Widow scary character named Constance Hatchaway. Before we explain the detail, let me explain some theories that there are about the bride. Some people believe, and I believe this one too, that the woman in the painting of the stretching room who is sitting on a tombstone is the older version of the bride, or Constance Hatchaway, because the final person she kills, according to the portraits in the attic, his name is George, and she is sitting on the tombstone of a man named George. So I believe that. I think that's pretty solid evidence. And then we discussed this, I think yesterday, I'm pretty sure I discussed this, where there's also a theory that the Hatbox Ghost and the bride are connected because she chops off heads and the Hatbox Ghost is missing his head. It kind of just, and they're next to each other, it just seems to make sense. Let's talk about the infamous, notorious, really scary Black Widow, Constance Hatchaway. Like I said before, in the Disneyland and Magic Kingdom versions of the attraction, the name of the bride in the attic is Constance Hatchaway, and obviously the pun is intended. The bride has an interesting backstory. She has been married 5 different times to 5 different wealthy men within a decade. Her first marriage began in 1869, and her last marriage ended in 1877. It is implied that she killed each of her husbands with an axe, obviously. The bride married her first husband in 1869. His name was Ambrose Harper, a farmer. Frank Banks, her second husband, was a banker, fittingly with his name. I'm seeing a lot of puns in these names. Marquise de Doom was a diplomat with an unfortunate name who was killed by his wife on Valentine's Day. Again, another pun with the names. Fourth was Reginald Kane, a railroad baron whose fortune was stolen by his wife after she murdered him. The last was George Hightower, who died in 1877. So, how did Constance end up at the mansion? Her 5th husband, George Hightower, came into some property in Liberty Square, which is the land that Haunted Mansion is located in Magic Kingdom. After she killed him, she became the mansion's owner. So we do know for a fact that Constance Hatchaway is one of the owners of the mansion at some point, 1877 to when she died, whenever that is. There is a rumor that Constance's 5th husband, George Hightower, is related to Harrison Hightower III, the owner of the Hotel Hightower, or as it has come to be known after his death, the Hollywood Tower Hotel. We know it as a Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Constance Hatchaway in the attic is wearing 5 pearl necklaces around her neck. Each pearl necklace represents one of the husbands she's killed with an axe. Look closely at the portraits of the bride leading up to her appearance in the attic. Gradually, each portrait, she gains a new her necklace. So that's pretty nuts. She's pretty evil, pretty scary, but she is the only one we know for sure owner of the mansion. Now, the bride in Phantom Manor, Melanie Ravenswood, has a very tragic story. She's more of the victim here. Melanie's father, Henry Ravenswood, owns and operates a mine just nearby called Thunder Mesa, which is where Big Thunder Mountain would be located in Paris. Well, it is located there. Not would be, it is located there. And during a huge mining accident, Melanie loses her father and her mother, and she is left completely alone at the mansion. She falls in love with a train engineer. She is about to get married, but on the wedding day, for some reason, a strange phantom appears, lures her groom to the stretching room where he hangs him, but he is never found for some reason. So Melanie believes that her husband has run out on her and left her at the altar. She goes a little bit crazy and never takes off her wedding dress, hoping that her one true love will come back to her. So she wanders the mansion, singing for years. Everyone kind of leaves. The staff either dies or leaves. Years later, she'd be over 100 years old now, and nobody even knows if she's dead or alive. But at night, during the full moon, town residents can hear her voice as she sings and the Phantom's maniacal laugh. Phantom also invited some of his other demon and ghostly friends to come hang out at the manor with him. So that's how they have so many ghosts there. It's really tragic. It's definitely the darkest and most sad of the Haunted Mansion stories. And then in the movie, we have Elizabeth, who's supposed to marry Master Gracie, who was killed, but Master Gracie believed she committed suicide, but she did not. She was murdered by the butler Ramsley. Spoiler alert, sorry, but it came out in 2003, So, the question is, what's the deal with all these brides and these similar stories in almost all variations of the Haunted Mansion? Tune in tomorrow to find out.